Today, we're diving deep into the hidden damages of a narcissistic relationship. We're going to go way beyond just the surface-level arguments and look at the profound, often invisible, toll these kinds of toxic dynamics can take on a person, both psychologically and physically.
So, what are the real risks here? It's such a crucial question, because the damage, it just accumulates so slowly, so sneakily, that you don't even recognize it until you're totally lost in the maze. There's actually a pretty powerful analogy that explains exactly how this happens.
I want you to imagine a frog, okay? And it's placed in a pot of comfortable, lukewarm water. At first, everything feels totally fine. It's normal, maybe even kind of nice. In a relationship, this is that beginning phase, the charm, the constant attention, that feeling that you've found something really special. But then, the heat gets turned up. Just one single degree at a time. An occasional criticism here, a subtle put-down there, a moment of neglect. Each one is so small, so gradual, that the frog, and the person in the relationship, just adjusts. It just becomes the new normal, and no alarm bells go off.
And the temperature just keeps rising, degree by degree, until that water is boiling. But because there was never one sudden shocking change, the frog never makes the decision to jump out. It's adapted itself to a completely lethal environment. And that is exactly how someone can get trapped in a damaging situation. Not because of one big choice, but through 1,000 tiny little accommodations.
So how does this whole lethal environment actually work on your mind? Well, it all starts with two incredibly powerful mind games. One creates this addictive bond, and the other one systematically makes you forget your own reality.
The first one is something called trauma bonding. And let's be clear, this is not about love. It's this intense attachment that gets forged from a totally unpredictable cycle. You can think of it like a slot machine, right? You put up with long stretches of neglect and mistreatment, all for that tiny, unpredictable reward of kindness or a bit of praise. That randomness is exactly what makes it so incredibly addictive.
This slide just captures that hot and cold dynamic perfectly. One minute you're being pulled in with "I love you" and praise, and the very next you're being pushed away with neglect or criticism. This constant push and pull, this is the engine of trauma bonding. It keeps you emotionally off balance and totally hooked. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. Breaking free means you have to make a conscious choice to get off that emotional roller coaster. It means you refuse to get sucked into the extreme highs or the extreme lows. The recovery really begins the moment you detach from that cycle and start focusing on rebuilding your own sense of self-worth. Okay, so the second mind game is this phenomenon called fish memory. It's basically a form of cognitive dissonance. The abuser might praise you and then insult you in the exact same breath, and it leaves you so confused that your brain literally can't process it. So to cope, your mind just forgets the bad parts. It allows the relationship to just hit the reset button, as if the abuse never even happened.
So how do you fight something like that? Well, this right here is the most effective counter-strategy. To fight that fog of fish memory, you have to create an undeniable factual record. Actually writing down what happened, and then reading it back to yourself over and over. It prevents your memory from being rewritten. It grounds you in reality. Now, all of this immense psychological stress, it doesn't just stay in your head. Oh no, over time, your body really starts to pay the price. And the physical consequences can be severe and stick around for a long, long time.
We're talking about things manifesting as chronic conditions, like fibromyalgia or persistent anxiety and that really severe brain fog. The constant stress can also trigger eating disorders as a way to cope with the emotions. And ultimately, it can create this state of hypervigilance, where your nervous system is just permanently stuck in fight or flight mode, always bracing for the next attack.
Living in that state of constant stress doesn't just mess with your body. Over time, it starts to wear away at your very sense of who you are, and it systematically cuts you off from the rest of the world.
One of the most insidious effects is something called narcissistic infection. Basically, you spend so much time exposed to all these negative traits that you start to mirror them, almost like a survival mechanism. You might find yourself becoming more arrogant or bossy or suspicious of people. And this slide just shows the stark transformation. A person who was once trusting becomes suspicious of absolutely everyone. Someone who was a social butterfly becomes avoidant. A creative person can experience a complete art block because of the immense psychological pressure. That isolation literally damages your social intelligence, leaving you feeling awkward and totally unskilled in normal conversations.
So,
Beyond all the changes to your personality and your health, there are these tangible, just heartbreaking costs to being trapped in the maze for too long. These are the kinds of things you can never, ever get back.
The first, and honestly the most precious, is time. Years, literal years of your life can just vanish while you're caught in that cycle of abuse and then trying to recover. It's the one thing you can never get back.
And then there's the financial cost. It is incredibly common for a partner's hard work and all their resources to just be drained away, often leaving them completely wiped out financially after years of effort.
And finally, friendships. The narcissist actively works to isolate you from your support system. And by the end of it, many people find they've lost the very friends who tried to warn them, leaving them utterly and completely alone.
So after laying out all of this damage, the only question that really matters is, how do you get out? How do you even begin to heal and reclaim the life that was taken from you?
So here's what's so essential to understand. Recovery is an active, methodical process. It's not passive. It starts with recognizing and documenting what is really happening. It demands a conscious detachment from all those emotional hooks. It's a journey, really, of shedding dependency and rebuilding, piece by piece, the self-confidence that was systematically destroyed.
And all of this brings us to the final, and maybe the most important question. After you've been so accustomed to the intense, deceptive illusions of that relationship, normal reality can sometimes feel, well, kind of bland. So the most critical choice you have to make is this. Do you prefer the comforting, familiar illusion, or are you ready to face the difficult but ultimately liberating truth? The answer to that question, it changes everything.